Have you ever heard the saying, what goes around, comes around? Well, today we're diving into a classic fairy tale that brings this idea to life in the most dazzling, and frankly, disgusting way possible. This is the story of diamonds and toads, but we're going to look at it not just as a children's story, but as a tragic tale of kindness, vanity, and the heavy price of abaditude. Our story begins with a widow and her two daughters. Now, you might be thinking, oh, the stupid, evil stepmother. Right? Well, not quite. In this case, it's the mother herself who is the source of the problem. She had a daughter who was the spitting image of her sour, arrogant, and just plain unpleasant. And she adored her. Her other daughter, however, was the complete opposite. She was gentle, beautiful, and inherited her late father's kind heart. As you can probably guess, this kind daughter was treated like a servant in her own home. She did all the work, endured all the scolding, and never received a single word of praise. One scorching hot day, the kind daughter, whose name is often Fanchen, was sent to fetch water from a spring a long way from the house. While she was there, a poor, elderly woman approached her, begging for a drink. She looked tired and thirsty. Without a second thought, Fanchen rinsed her pitcher, filled it with the coolest water from the spring, and held it up so the old woman could drink easily. This simple act of kindness, offered without hesitation, was about to change her life forever. You see, this old woman wasn't just any traveler. She was a fairy in disguise, testing the hearts of mortals. Pleased with Fanchen's genuine compassion, the fairy revealed her true form and bestowed a gift upon her. She sighed, "For every word you speak, a flower or a precious jewel shall fall from your lips." Fanchen was bewildered but thanked the fairy and hurried home. When she arrived, her mother berated her for taking so long. Fanchen apologized, saying, "I'm so sorry, mother." And as she spoke, the roses, the pearls, and the large diamonds tumbled from her mouth. You can imagine the mother's reaction. Shock, then greed. "What is this? How did this happen?" she demanded. Fanchen, in her innocence, told her the whole story. The mother's mind immediately started racing. She turned to her favorite daughter, whose name is often Babette, and sighed, "You must go to the spring. And when a poor woman asks you for a drink, you will be very polite and give it to her." She practically pushed her out the door. So, Babette, grumbling and complaining the entire way, trudged to the spring. She had no more intention of being kind, but she desperately wanted the same magical gift. Sure enough, a beautifully dressed princess appeared, this time the same fairy, now in a different disguise, and asked for a drink. Babette, seeing a grand lady instead of a poor beggar, snapped back rudely, "Do you think he came all this way just to serve you a drink? Find the water yourself if you're thirsty." She was dismissive, arrogant, and showed her true colors immediately. The fairy, her test now complete, was not pleased. "You are as rude as you are unpleasant," she declared. "Since you have shown such a lack of courtesy, I will give you a gift that matches your heart. For every word you speak, a snake or a toad shall fall from your lips." Horrified, Babette ran home. The second she opened her mouth to complain to her mother, a viper and a toad dropped to the floor. The household descended into chaos. This is where the story shifts from a simple fairy tale into a real tragedy. The mother, once so doting on her favorite daughter, was now repulsed by her. The fairy child she had spoiled and molded in her own image had become a source of disgust. She flew into a rage, blaming Babette for the curse and ultimately driving her from the house. Babette, now completely alone and cursed, wandered into the forest and was never seen again. A life built on vanity and cruelty ended in lonely misery. But what about Fanchen, our kind-hearted hero? The story has a much happier ending for her. After being driven out by her enraged mother, who blamed her for Babette's misfortune, Fanchen fled into the same woods. But her journey was very different. Crying and alone, she was discovered by a prince who was out hunting. He saw her beauty and was immediately captivated. He asked why she was weeping, and as she explained her story, a cascade of pearls and diamonds fell from her lips. The prince was astonished, not just by the magical jewels, but by the goodness they represented. He realized that a person with such a gift must have a heart of pure gold. He fell in love with her on the spot, recognizing that her inner beauty was far more valuable than any treasure. He took her back to his palace, and they were married. Fanchon's kindness didn't just earn her a magical gift, it led her to a life of love and happiness, where she was finally cherished for who she was. She became a beloved queen, and her story serves as a powerful reminder that true wealth isn't found in jewels or status, but in the kindness we show to others. So, let's unpack this. Diamonds and toads is more than just be nice and you'll get rewarded. It is a deep commentary on how we raise our children and the values we instill in them. The mother created a monster by rewarding arrogance and punishing kindness. She valued her reflection in her favored daughter more than genuine character. When that reflection became ugly and reptilian, she couldn't stand it. Her love was conditional, based entirely on vanity. The tragedy of Babette is that she never had a chance. She was taught that being selfish and rude was acceptable, even desirable. Her curse was just a physical manifestation of the ugliness she had been taught to carry inside. In the end, the person who abandoned her was the very person who made her that way. It's a heartbreaking cycle. Meanwhile, Fanchon's story shows that kindness is its own reward, but it often attracts more goodness into our lives. Her simple act wasn't performed with the hope of a prize. It was spontaneous and genuine. The diamonds and the flowers were just a symbol of the beauty that was already inside her. The prince didn't fall in love with the jewels. He fell in love with the person who was worthy of them. This story asks you as a timeless question. What do we truly value? Is it outward appearance and the personal gain, like the mother and the Babette? Or is it inner character and the compassion, like Fanchon? The tale makes it clear that one path leads to isolation and the misery, while the other leads to love and the fulfillment. It's a powerful lesson wrapped in a magical, and sometimes cliché, package. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into a classic fairy tale. What do you think? Does the mother bear most of the blame? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.